Cool. So, like I said, I'm just going to run through a couple little more organizational things before we move on. The first being selection sets, which we also, I didn't want to sort of talk about layers, groups, and selections all within the same, lecture, because it just sort of all mushes together. So there's one other way, and this is more of an aid for basically just selecting things and retaining those selections, because lots of times, if you have, once again, we're talking about the situation where you have hundreds of objects in the scene, right? Now, of course you can put them on layers, you can do this, you can do that, but another way to handle them is selection sets, okay? And selection sets are different in that, we talked about layers, which sort of makes objects have a relationship, meaning like, all these guys are on the same layer, so they obviously, meet, you want them to be there for a reason, right? And that's at the object level, okay? The cool thing about selection sets is they don't have to be objects, right? So if you get into a situation where, say you selected a bunch of faces and it took you a long time to get, exactly, damn it. A really long time, there we go, to get what you were looking for, and you wanted to do something on this, but there's a decent chance you're going to come back to it. This is where a selection set of just faces can really save you a lot of work. So if you go to create, they're down. There we go. They're down here at sets, okay. And like I said, the cool thing about sets is they can be objects, they can be vertices, they can be pretty much anything, and it's sort of just a catch-all for stuff, So if I said create a set, and I said, ball faces 01, okay. Add to part. You don't need them. So I hit apply and close. Okay. What I end up getting is if I open my or actually no, sorry, the outliner was already open. You see here I get this little collection here called ball faces 01. Okay, and if you look inside here, there's all the faces one by one that I selected. Okay, so now just to get that back, and I can, it's just like any other entity. So, I can go in and I can select, and it'll show up in your, where they go, sets. Select sets. Hello. Components. Does anybody see it? Oh, sorry. No, quick selection sets are different, but
it's down below.
Thank you. Where is it?
It's its own window below the big one.
Well, that's for creating it. You talk about that one? Yeah. Yeah, see, that's for selecting it. Select by type. Ah, for gosh sakes. Sorry, hold on. Can I select set members? There we go, sorry. So the easiest way to do it, there's supposed to, in my interface, there's one set. Okay, well, anyways, the easiest way is just using your outliner. You can select the set members, which are anything that's in here. Okay, so if I right-click on that on the selection set I created, I get my faces selected back, and I can resume doing stuff with them. But once again, this may not seem like a big deal when you have one sphere and things like that. But when you have an object where you went in and you selected all those little tiny edges along a fillet that you don't want to get get rid of, but you need to do something with, move them around. You'll be happy that you have this, because you can always go back in and grab that set. Okay. The other thing to remember about these is, since I just extruded this, any child, meaning things that were created from that original set of faces, dumps into the set too. So since I did extrudes right here, like this, So like that. Okay, so these are the originals. Now if I shift and scale out and make a new set, ooh, something happened there. They're in the set too, okay? That's just kind of the way that it works. And that can be good or bad. It depends on what you sort of, what you're trying to get. So the other part, or the other, like I said, since these are sort of object or object type agnostic, they can just as easily be like, I can make a bunch of objects, or can I? There we go. And I could say, well, I like this one, I like this one, and I like this one, and I can create a new set, whatever, just green spit tunes, apply and close, boom, now I have, select just the green ones again, okay, so, or whatever I'm calling these ones that I like, okay. And the great thing about them is that, you can create set after set. There's nothing stopping you from having, like when you do layers, things are going to want to stay in their own layers if you, however you set that up. But an object can belong to as many selection sets as you need, which is really handy too, because, depending on, if you wanted these three, or sorry, these four, that's great. If you wanted, this selection set with just the greens, they're in that set, other one, and they're also in this set, So, like I said, it's just another organizational thing to help you sort of, whether you want to create groups or you want to create, layers, whether you want selection sets, it's whatever applies for whatever you're trying to solve. And like I said, at this stage, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's something to keep in mind, because when you get 1,000 objects seen and you spent, 15 minutes picking out just these certain ones, it can really, save your butt. And, this also sort of goes along with, the constraints that we talked about with, where you're allowed to, select randomly, like say you had a bunch of grass, right? And you made one blade and you cloned it out all over the place, right? And you wanted to create randomness. You could say, well, I'm going to select 10% of everything, and I'm going to scale them all this amount, right? If you dump those into a quick selection set, and you came back and you said, well, those look terrible, they're too big, you could get that selection set back, and you could scale them down or whatever, just it allows you to not lose your place, is kind of the best way to put it, okay? And then there's another tool. Quick selection sets are kind of the same thing if, let's see. They don't have the same, let me see here. So let's see, create. No, sorry, here, there. Object component quick selection set. So you create those, let's see. How the hell are those done? I'm going to skip over that, actually, because I don't remember how it works. I always use just regular sets. I'll look back into quick selection sets. It's a similar thing. It's just basically not as flexible. That's why I don't use them. And they're for more like people who do a lot of face selecting, so they want a little cluster of faces here and a cluster of faces there, versus like, these are nice, like, because, you can, they're right here in your outliner, and they show up as a regular object or whatever, or not an object, but a organizational type. Okay. Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about real quick is when since we've moved our way out of modeling for the most part and gone through the stock Maya tools, which are the things that we're talking about today, or since we've started, essentially, right? That doesn't mean that there aren't literally hundreds and hundreds of other tools to do all kinds of hundreds and hundreds of other types of things, So Maya is really good at being open to programming for anybody, essentially, and it's actually really easy to do. And if you know anything about programming, it's really, really easy to do. So when you go out there, when you look online, there's tons and tons of resources to get all kinds of great things done, right? So if you do hit a jam, I mean, the best place to think about this is if you get into a situation where you're like, well, geez, doing blank is gonna take me, it's gonna take me 3 hours or something like that, right? Say you were trying to figure out, you were making a leather chair, right? And you wanted to put the stitches along the edge or one of the edges, right? Like, what are you going to do? Like place, hundreds of little tiny stitches or whatever, or you have to think of a method on how you would get those there, right? So, if you ran out to Google and went Maya script stitches or something like that, I guarantee you'd run into, probably a dozen scripts that would help you get that done. Because, Maya is so old. People have been writing these things for literally 20 years, so the underlying programming language hasn't changed a ton since it was made, right? So a lot of them, like easy scripts are still work that are like 20 years old. Like ones will break, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. But like I said, if you've got something in mind and either you can't think of a way to do it, or if it's going to be really time consuming, it's worth your time to go look for a script to help you out. Like I said, there's types for just about anything, right? So some of the best places, I mean, the easiest way is to Google, but you'll probably end up back here, a place called High End 3D. This site's been around like probably 20 years too. And they have a whole area that's just Maya scripts, right? And the bulk of them are free. I think they're almost all free. And they have a search. Excuse me?
What's this website?
High End 3D is it's called. And like I said, I mean, if you go searching, you'll probably run into it. Like, it's pretty much the big catch-all. Like usually when scripts aren't here, they're usually on some some individual site. Because they want you to go, hey, look, I wrote this script, like check out my site. You know what I mean? They're trying to do it sort of as an advertising thing, which is fine. But this is really like the bucket for this kind of stuff, okay? And it's great because, like I said, you can say, one thing that people, I think it's funny, they write a lot of scripts like this is a really good one. This is just a list of scripts, and a lot of them actually deal with turning splines into polygon objects like tubes and things like that without extruding, because this is a feature that frankly should be in Maya and is in a bunch of other programs but isn't in Maya. So people write things to get this done. So this one, extensive polygon modeling tool set, yada, yada, yada. Let's see, it helps you convert to poly wire, so it's the same kind of thing, curve to poly. So there's a bunch of them in here that just do that. Here's another one, wired jumbler, blah, blah, blah. So the point is that, like I said, if you get into a jam or you really can't figure something out, and the good one to know, or the good one to think of, is if something's going to be really time consuming, meaning you're going to do the same damn thing over and over, placing little screws or something like that, or like I said, making stitches, just anything that seems like, hey, wouldn't somebody write something to make this faster? Yeah, they probably did, because somebody probably hit the same thing, hit the same problem, and then went in and wrote a quick script to get it done, right? So the point is just go out and look for them. Like I said, we're not teaching these here because they're they're not part of the Maya base package, and you could sit and talk about scripts for the rest of your life because there's so many of them, okay? But it's really worth going out and looking for and getting a little collection of them going, and kicking them around. So yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you how to utilize them when you get them, because, well, just because. so down here is where your script, down here where you see it says Mel, okay? If you click on this, there's Mel and Python. What this thing is at the bottom of the screen is essentially a direct link to talking to Maya's sort of underlying engine, right? So you can actually type stuff right in here if you know what to type, and you'll get something out of it. So like as easy as it is, if I type sphere, I'll get a basic sphere, right? Okay, and it just barfs it out, and bam, there you go, right? So, you know, you can type in move, and you know, like any of the commands that are going on in the background of Maya, if you know them, you can literally type them in here, and you can get stuff, you know. And now keep in mind, this is just kind of a lucky shot. Like, you know, if I type box, see, I don't get anything because you're like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. What's a box, you know? But if maybe cube works. Nope, cube doesn't work. See, so it's not like, you know, Siri or something where you go, hey, man, I need a cow. And it goes, oh, great, here you go. I think this is what you mean. You know, you got to know what you're talking about here. It's like, so it's not that friendly. You know, this is, like I said, this is just a dumb, you know, luck that I got that out of it, right? The two, but if you click this, there's two things called Mel and Python. And depending on what you know about programming, these are the two types of scripting languages that Maya understands. Python being the newest one. Mel is the one that they created for Maya. It's like Maya expression language, I think it's called, and it's its own little language. It's really easy to use, but more and more people are learning Python, right? Python is great for all kinds of things. It's a language that's easily readable, but it's actually pretty powerful. So, you know, people run websites with it. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do with it. Anyway, so if you click that, it's expecting a Python statement down here. If you click this, it's looking for a Mel statement down here, okay? So if you had a collection of sort of things that you, commands that you liked, you could actually paste it in there and you know, and that would do its thing. Or if you click this, way at the bottom right there, you'll get script editor, okay? And the script editor has, by default, it has two parts, okay? The top here is what I would call like the listener, essentially. And if you watch what's going on here, like right now it's got a bunch of stuff. So if I create a cube, see right here, polycube, yada yada, you know. So the back end, you know, the inner, if you think of it, it's like the interface of Maya is talking to sort of the low-level program of Maya, you know, like in the background. The same way, like, so if I took that statement and once again pumped it into here, meaning I'm talking directly to Maya that's in the background, I get the same cube, okay? And you see all the options here are just, you know, you can get in here. So it's, what it's saying is polycube with a width of 1, a height of 1, depth of 1. Here's the divisions, 3 by 3 by 3. Let's see, AX, I don't know what that option is. I don't know what that is. Let's see, curve 4. So if I wanted one, you know, that was 10, width of 10, I could just change that there, and now I get a 10, right? You know, okay. And you see what it did here is it pumped the same statement that I did down here into Maya right there, okay? The thing that's cool about this is if you watch this, you know, like a good example is, you know, by being able to get right at the commands that Maya is sending to itself, you could say, you can sort of spy on what it's doing, right? And sometimes you can do things like, you know, things that don't have a hotkey, you can make, you can grab that statement and you can, you know, put it on a button, so that all you gotta do is mash the button and it'll change, you know, that kind of stuff. You know, writing programs down here, which I'll show you. In fact, I'm gonna simplify it. So we're just looking at the listener right now. You know, writing programs that we're gonna look at in a second is definitely a bigger thing, but being able to get through and grab these statements and that kind of stuff is really easy, and there's no reason to not give it a shot, because it opens up a lot of stuff. Because, you know, like I said, things that don't have a button, or things that you're doing a lot that you want sort of right in front of you, you can get at those things and you can grab those statements, okay? So and then the thing that I just hid, I'll cut it in half. So this is the same thing as this. I can pump it in there and get the same cube. So, this is also this. Once again, Maya has 5 ways to do the same damn thing over and over. So this is the same listener command line that's down here. That's the same. These are the same thing. Python, Mel. Okay, but these are actually open scripts that I have here, right? And they're just programs that somebody's nice enough to write and give away. And what you'll see is, so a Mel script is just a text file that is formatted to tell Maya what to do and how to work, okay? So you'll see a lot of this same stuff. And these are really handy because you'll usually get a description about it, where it came from and all that stuff, all up here in the comments. The comments will usually show up in yellow here, right? So copyright 2009 Lightstorm 3D, blah, blah, blah. Here's who wrote it and his email. So if you're like, hey, man, your script doesn't work anymore, sometimes a person will say, oh, yeah, I haven't updated it for this new version or something, and they can help you, or if they feel like it or whatever, because the last time this script was modified was in 2009, right? So that was, 7, 8 revisions of Maya ago. So things do break and they just stop working because they do change how it works underneath, and that becomes a problem, okay? And then here's the thing, and the most important thing is you have to remember with these scripts is that they're not part of, they're not written by anybody at Autodesk or anything like that. So lots of times they're written by somebody just to get something done, so they're not graceful in the way they work, they're not pretty, they're not, whatever, right? Like sometimes they'll do absolutely nothing because you need to be selecting like a special, you need to be selecting 2 faces or a spline or something like that. Usually in the description you'll get that, right? And it says here, creates NURBS tubes or paint effects along NURBS isoparms and poly edges. Create NURBS spheres at isoparm junctions and mesh vertices. Creates full construction history when using blah, 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 blah. So this tells you what it's going to do. And lots of times, like I said, it says, make sure you've selected this thing, and then you run the thing, okay? So I have another tab for another thing here, okay? So these open up as you get more and more tabs. You can even write your own, So if I clicked the plus here for a tab, it says specify executor source language. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna make a Mel script, and if I punch this in there, like if for some reason I was needing a whole lot of cubes that were 100 by 100, right? And then see up here, so I'm gonna delete this guy. Okay. Now, if I run that, I just created a script, so it makes a cube that's 100 by 100, and all that stuff. Okay, so it's there, like that's as simple as the script needs to be. So like I said, if you needed that over and over and over again, you can make that simple script and have it for good, okay? The easiest way to do that is to create your own custom shelf, right? And this dips into like a Maya specific thing again, but I think it's really important. The thing that I don't know exactly if these things are going to stick to your login on your machine, but I think they will. Okay, so if you do this, in theory, if you log into another machine, these things should be there because they travel with your user profile. So we're going to try it now, and we'll find out if that's true.
They wipe these computers every week.
Okay, they wipe these even your user things?
Yeah, so like even if, let's say I saved a model on my desktop, that's only on this computer, and then they wipe it.
Yeah, but how do you have like the same background and stuff every week?
Oh, I have it on my hard drive.
Okay.
I plug it in,
But other people are doing that, right? Like Violet, how are you doing that?
It's still there, and I still have some settings from last week.
Yeah. So I'm not sure they wipe everything.
They are with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know like the seniors told me don't save anything on here because recently people have like saved too many things. So then they have to wipe it because it only has 18 gigabytes left of memory.
Oh.
because there's so many programs on it.
Right, right.
And originally it has 200 and something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in theory, these things would go with your user profile, and we'll try it out and see if it doesn't, and if so, I'll show you how to hold on to it. It's a good idea to know how to hold on to it, anyways, because then you keep it, and then like if you go work somewhere else, like you you have your own sort of setup or whatever, right? So, anyways, so to create a new shelf, we've gone through all these shelves here, or no. We definitely haven't gone through all these shelves here. We've gone through a couple of these shelves here, but there's nothing stopping you from making your own, which is really cool, as well as getting rid of ones that you don't want. But anyways, so what you can do is you create, if you come here, there's a little gear icon in the shelf, and one of the things you can do is make a new shelf. So, so I can just call a new tab Andy's Junk, right? So now I have a empty empty shelf that's all my own, right? So the great part is what you can do is you can middle mouse drag almost anything, which is really great. Meaning I could take pieces from other shelves, or even just basic commands like this, right? So if I grab this command that I have here that I grabbed out of, let's start over, right? So if I said, okay, I'm going to be making hundreds of these little tubes or something, and this is, it's obviously easy to hit that, the button to get this little tube, but you'll see what I mean in a second. Okay, so if I find, so if you see here, poly cylinder with these settings, okay. So what it's saying here is, so here's me deleting. So actually, here's me selecting that cube. Select nothing, and then select this. Deselect the cube, and then I delete it. Do delete. That's just like if I type that in here, I have this selected, and I type, all right, Control paste, Control V, do delete. Oops. Do delete. It's going to do that. That's what happened there. Boom, delete. Okay. So anyway, so if you come down here and I say polygon cylinder or poly cylinder with all these options, and I try that out, well, that made the cylinder I wanted. But you can actually even say I only wanted it say 4. So see, with a radius of 3, a height of 4, and then a divisions of 32. Now all this is, I'm guessing, I don't really know. That's well, these ones are self-explanatory, but I'm assuming that 32 is the divisions around. See, and it is, so it's basically all the same options you'd get if you went. It's just answering the question of, oops, create primitive cylinder. So see, 32. So all it's doing is just answering all these questions. It's so I'm just invoking polycylinder, a radius of, here we go, radius of 3. So there's the radius, height of 12. Like I said, axis divisions of 32. Why they call it SX, I don't know. That's their business. Height divisions would be next. So if I bump that up and said 4 and 4, okay. If I wanted a round cap, how I want it made, that's what all these other things are. See, let's see. So axis. Oh, okay. So the axis is saying on the 0, that would be X, Y, 1. So if whatever's 1 is just the difference there, or which it's telling it what axis to make it in. Whether you want to create UVs or whether you want to normalize it, and the aspect ratio is one of these things too. So if I hit create, so that's what I get there, and then here's, see, you notice how the code is different between these two. Okay, so I said 3, I said 12, divisions and all that other stuff. So anyway, so the point is that if you keep trying out your commands like this, and that they're going to work, they're giving you what you want, you can just take it, select it, hold down your middle mouse button, drag it. Wrong. Oops. So get your you got to get the right shelf open, drag it up there. Now I have a button, and now I can close all this stuff right? And I mash that button and I get the cylinder I want, okay? The cool thing about this is, let's make sure that's absolutely true, is that if I come in here and I say, well, I want one that's 50 by 1 by 12, you know, and I move along and I change the options, right? This button, since it supplies all the options, is still going to give me that you know, a cylinder with those specific you know, the specific options that we put into it. So, you know, it's a way to get right back to wherever you're looking to be, you know, like if like I said, if for some reason you needed a bunch of these. Now once again, keep in mind, like a good example, now that's just about creation, right? So a good example of what else you can do with it is, you know, sometimes, you know, like say you hated these little buttons, right? You know, they are really tiny and it's a pain in the butt to get at them and everything, right? So say you wanted to, you know, just have that so that it's a nice big button, or you wanted to tie it to a hotkey, you know, situation, because you get sick of changing them, okay? If you go in here, so all the stuff, like I said, every command that comes out of Maya is echoed in here. See, so as I scale, it's telling me scale, scale. So all that stuff is there, right? The same goes for, let me make sure I can see it. Echo all commands, there it is. Okay. So what it's doing is it actually hides, if you go in here, what Maya does is in this script editor, it only is showing you sort of the major things that are happening. Otherwise, you'd see a whole lot of stuff going on. But some commands, like these kind of things that change the viewport look, turn off the lights and turn on shadows, happen sort of in the background. And that means you need to turn on echo all commands, and you'll actually see all this crazy stuff that's going on. Like, that's why it doesn't do that, because it's sort of showing you a lot of stuff, right? So, but that allows you to see things like the changes. See now that changed. Okay, so if I turn those back on and I paste what I just copied there, it doesn't do it. Well, come on. Let's see. Upon a callback, maybe. Well, it's supposed to change those guys. It's supposed to change those options, but it is not doing it. Well, crap. Well, usually you can get at things like that right from Mel, or right here in the listener. I must be selecting the wrong thing. Sorry about that. Callback button to shadows. Yeah, see, so it's calling out the shadows button, blah, 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 blah. Well, it didn't do it. Well, anyways, that's let me look that one up too. So sorry about that. So, but these are the kind of things that you can capture and get in, you know, put into a button so that you can just click one button and have multiple things happen, or, you know, make different things that are sort of hidden happen. Okay, let me try and find another good one. A really good place for it is also, you know, if you set something up and you do something almost every time, you can capture that. Meaning, like, if you're constantly making lights of the same type, and, you know, we're going to talk about that in a minute. You can just like you can make an object that has certain parameters every time. You can make lights, and you can make cameras and all this stuff without going into, you know, the going in here. You know, once you've captured. Oops, that's why you want to turn that off. Once you've captured the settings that you like, you've got them, and you just have to, if you keep the script, you've got it every time you need it. Okay, so the script we created to make these tubes right here, if you right click on it, you'll get a bunch of different stuff. You know, edit being the first one, where you can literally, you know, get in and here's that same script that we captured, or the same line that we captured to make the the cylinder, right? So that's it, right? So if you wanted to change that, this allows you to change that. So if it's too high, or maybe I wanted it wider too, I can change the script, right? And now when I hit that, I get something. I get a squatter wider tube, okay? And it stays there. It's because you're literally editing the script that's back there, okay? Okay. And then the other thing that you can do in here too is you can edit the pop-up, which is really nice because obviously it has no. Sorry, if you open it. It has no name or anything. It's just this little, looks like a tent or something. The quickest thing to do is or the main thing you really want to do is change the label so that it says something, so it says, or maybe you can only use a couple of letters because it, a squat cylinder we'll call it. So boom. So now it says SQT cylinder, right? So at least I know what it means, okay? So if you go in here, there's lots of options. You can change what the button looks like. They usually give you some basic ones. Where are they? Documents. Yes, and you got to dig in there. But if you dig in there for buttons, you can actually make your own if you give it a little PNG file type, you can give it. You can change what the button looks like because it's going to keep putting this basic one in here over and over. You can change the color, like so. Oh, it just changes the color of the lettering, which might be handy depending on what you're trying to do there. The tooltip, you can actually the script is over here, but you could change the tooltip to whatever you want. So it's makes a squat little cylinder, right? So when I roll over it, I gotta save it first. Makes a squat little cylinder. So it's a way to remind yourself what the heck the thing does, okay? The rest of it, you probably don't want to play with any of that stuff, blah, 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 blah. So, here's the code again, that just to tell, that's a weird name. Okay, there we go. So here's the shelf. You can rename it here, reorganize it, all that stuff. So if you go in here, you actually see all the other shelves and their contents, right? So so here's the curves one. Here, they're all in here, and you can edit them any way you want, which can be really handy. It's like, as you go on, you see the things that both you want in front of you and things you want out of your way. So it's like a good example is like if you come in here. The poly editing tools don't have the thing for adding. Let's see, insert edge loop right here. They don't have it out and about, which is like crazy. So it's like I can grab that. Oops, mesh tools. I can. Grab it. Come on.
So are we not able to add that onto the tab section?
No, you can. Yeah. Why is it not doing it? You can move them around. There it goes. Sorry. So this one's a little different. It's not a drag situation. It's a for God's sakes. I hate these. I just did it. So this is them. Hold on. There it goes. So it's Control, Shift, and then pressing down the middle mouse button takes any command that's in the menus and puts it in the toolbar like so. Okay, that's how I ended up with a million of them like this. Okay, you don't drag them like you do with the command. You click the mouse button, right? Then if you hold down the middle mouse button, you can put it anywhere you like. So I could actually move it there. You can even move it to another shelf if you like. Now I created a copy over there. Okay, you can obviously delete some of these, which is what I'm trying to do here. So it's Shift, Control, and then whatever menu item that you're looking, and the middle mouse button. Shift, Control, middle mouse button, press down gives you a copy of that command iconized and put on the thing, or put on the current shelf. Okay. middle mouse button allows you to drag them around and reorganize them, which is really nice. Right click allows you to delete them, or you can actually use the shelf editor that you see here, and you can pull them out. You can just get rid of them by trashing them here, or you just can delete them. You can change their order. There's a few different ways to get at it. And I think you can you get away with this? I don't think so, no. There it is. So if I come back down to the poly cylinder thing I made, if you, what I did here was this is the file browser if I made my own icon, whereas if you click this guy, you'll get the factory icon browser. So all of them are in here, or not all of them, but most, you can get at the same icons that Maya has in there, that it's using to do that it's using to make its interface, right? So if I said I could go looking for that cylinder, there's the cylinder. So if I select that, now I have little squat cylinder. So I've named it, I've changed the icon, and there it is. So it's pretty cool. So you can get at all the same stuff that that Maya has. So to get in there, you just hit open, and this brings up the shelf editor and allows you to do all that stuff. Okay. So insert edge loop is the one I copied from the current mesh tools. Okay. I went in there and I changed the poly modeling one so that it's near the others. So there's the multi-cut tool, there's the split edge, target weld. These guys all go together pretty well. But once again, you can get rid of stuff that you know for sure you don't use. You can put things together, like for instance, here's the primitives that they chose to have out in front of you, right? So, well, what if you were if you really like this platonic solid thing, right? All I'd have to do is Control Shift, middle mouse button, then middle mouse button to drag it. Oh, it's already got it. It's right there. So let's say I liked not the soccer ball. What the hell was this? The super ellipse. No, that's right there.
Gear.
Yeah, gear, right? So there's the gear. And you could just put that with the other guys. I'll get rid of this other copy. Oops. Delete. Okay. So, you can get it any way you like, and you can just sort of streamline things for yourself, okay? Now, so that's just creation, right? Like I said, all these commands that are in there, that Maya is doing in the background here with the script editor. Okay, make sure I have that off. You can get at. So, that doesn't just mean, creating stuff. It means any group of commands, right? So even the duplicates, say duplicate special, right? So if I get a good setup, say, in fact, I have a tool to do this because, lots of times you need that, how we've been duplicating special in a circle, right? To make things that are arrayed around in a circle, flowers, rims, just anything that needs that duplicate special trick, right? So, you spend a lot of time, figuring out what works, so for instance, I'll go in here, and so I'm going to set up one of these that that I would actually keep and use, right? So if I made this guy, and it's got 12, make it 10 to make life easy, and I'm going to delete all the faces except these ones, okay? And I'm going to come back. Okay, so now I'm going to set up one of those instanced circle situations, right? Or you know what I mean? Take this one piece and array it in a circle so that I can delete it, right? So I say I'm going to make 9 copies arrayed. Sort of cheating because it's already sort of set up. 36 degrees, not scaling, not doing anything like that. Duplicate special, and I get that, right? So if you look over here, I'm going to take. So here it is. So instance, you know, we know about instance, rotate, and there it is, you know, 0 degrees, 36 degrees, you know, here's all the math to sort of do all that stuff. And I can actually skip the second part, okay? So if I grab this and take that command out, okay, that's the command that makes this, you know, happen, right? So if I delete all this stuff except for one of them, and I take that command that I just control C to save that, and I hit that, and it works, okay? Just boom, I don't have to go into the thing, I don't have to, or into the dialogue, I don't have to do anything, right? So I could do that with anything. I could, you know, obviously I'd want to do it with something where I know I'm going to array it around, but if I took a sphere, you know, and scaled it up a little bit, and moved it out, and I'm putting its pivot back to 0, and I select object. If I run that command, oops, it's going to make copies of those, right? Just by doing that, right? So okay, so I know that works. It's great. It does what it's supposed to do. So if I paste that in there, and I middle mouse button and drag it back up to here, now I've got that command, and I can come in and I could say, well, okay, so the name should no, that's the icon name. I could say 10 array. Keep in mind it has to be really short, which is a drag. I could look for a cool new icon for it if they have such a. Oh, yeah, that's not exactly what I was looking for. Copy maybe. No. Let's see. Circle. Its icons are a little limited. Let's see. I guess I'll just go with that. So that's fine, whatever. And then you know, I can give myself a little tooltip. Makes 9 instance copies around the Y. Okay. And I close that. So there it is. It says 10 array makes, you know, there's the tooltip. You know, so now all I would have to do to do that again, you know, over and over would be to, you know, set up, like I could even just go in and, like, where's the tool for create? So I'm just going to create a polygon, right? I'm just going to draw my own. Boom, boom, boom. Enter. And then if I hit that, there you go. You know, 9 copies ready to go. And I could just start moving those faces, you know, and I get that trick, you know, without, you know, all this digging in and all that stuff, you know. So you can see how quickly, like, you know, you could make, like, you could copy this over and figure out the math, make the quick little change, and get the same, you know, get one that makes 6 copies or whatever. So then before you know it, you're not setting that up, you know, like the 5 minutes that you're taking going, oh, how many degrees do I rotate, and, you know, how many do I need, and just all that stuff. It's down to one button, and you just got to press it. You just got to know how to use it, press it, and you're done, you know. So you see how it saves a whole lot of time. It's just, once again, it's just a huge time saver. And, you know, granted, if you went out there and searched, I'm sure somebody made like a thing called duplicate machine or something. That's a nice little script and all that stuff. But, you know, whatever. Like, it's nice to know how to deal with these things. So you know, you don't have to know what this is really saying to still be able to use it, okay? Meaning, like, by being able to watch the commands go by here in the listener, you know, is all you really need to do to know how to grab stuff, you know? I mean, all these things do exactly what they say. You see, select R polysurface 8. So this is polysurface 8, you know, that you can see right here. And if I rename it, you know, it's a wedge 01, and I select it, you know, you can actually even see rename wedge 01. So it's like if you wanted something that renamed objects that would, you know, something similar over and over, you could do that. You know, you could make a script that just, like, if I click this and I grab it, middle mouse button drag, now I select this object, mash the button. Oh, it's not going to do it because it already has one named that. So if I change the script to 02, object matches rename. Oh, okay.
If you delete your object history, does the melt disappear? Or does that stay?
No, that stays because that's part of just part of the program. Like it's not in. It doesn't have anything to do with the objects. You know what I mean? Like it. Yeah. Unless you embed Mel into the objects, it's completely separate. Okay. Okay. So, like I said, most things that you can see floating by here in the script editor, you can grab and you can copy and get back. You can do over and over again. You can also do multiple things, which is really great. So there's nothing stopping me from like for instance, if I let's see, so if I did that copy, right? All we did in this script is this one. Wait, where's the script? Edit. Oh, we did this one line, right? If there was something else I wanted to do after this, there's nothing stopping me from adding another line, meaning copying, more than likely, copying code out of the script editor into here and putting it, on it. Like this is a mini program that you're writing here. Just because it's one line doesn't mean it's not a kind of a program, right? So, you could keep copying the stuff in there, and that's where things really get. They get really handy because it's doing multiple operations by just pressing one button here, okay? All right, so that's the way to get things, to watch what Maya's doing in the background, grab those things and grab those commands and make your own stuff out of them, make your own, make your own Mel scripts out of them, okay? But like I was telling you, there's a million other ones, and the first step is definitely going to look for them. Unless you're doing something very specific to what you're trying to do, it's really good to just go out and Google Mel script. Like I said, array. And somebody. In fact, let's do that. Let's see, Mel script array. Boom. Google Mel script arrays. And here's by, this is a guy teaching you how to do it. My help, size command, variables, quick reference, Mel scripting for dummies. So yeah, a lot of these are about arrays because that's a programming term. So that's kind of a bad, I'll call it object array, right? No, same thing. Ah, man. So I picked a bad thing because arrays are a thing in programming. It just means how you hold on to data. You hold on to them in an array. So this, actually, let's search high-end 3D for that. So we'll say Maya scripts, and I can. Where's their search? So they have all these filters, so they can say scripts for Maya. Let's see. Character, 3D, blah, 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 data management, feedback for games related, interface, display. And for gosh sakes. Why don't they not have a overall search? They have a search for 3D models. Hold on. Let's see. How about... Sorry, I'm kind of going off. There we go. If you don't know about Google's advanced search stuff, it's really cool because it allows you to sick Google on. You can actually just say, only at this site, like this. I'm going to say high-end 3D. So before I was just searching the web, but I'm saying now search for these words only at this site, and it'll search. So all the results will come back here only from high-end 3D, which is cool. So if they don't have, if a site doesn't have a good search engine, you can make Google go look at it, and that's what it's doing here. So let's see, free live array for Maya. So here's a script. Here we go. So this does pretty much exactly what I was saying, but in a nice little interfacey format. So let's pull that down. This will be a perfect example. So it hasn't been updated since 2011. So there's a decent chance that it possibly might not work, but it's worth giving it a shot. So I grabbed it. There's only one file, which is nice. I'm gonna drop it on my desktop. Okay. And, ooh. Okay, I'm gonna go back to Maya. And I am going to open a script, and I'm gonna go to the desktop. And it's called Live Array. I'm gonna open it up. So here it is, livearray.mel. This one is not super friendly in here. See, there's no, you know, the way that this one has a nice header that tells you what's going on and what's going to happen. They are not really into that here. They're basically just wanting to get it going. And there it goes. So what you just saw over here, you know, is now running over there, or you know, running here in Maya. So let's see how it works. So what it's saying is, let's see, Live Array, set your instance model. So I've grabbed this guy. Set your relevant sliders, click generate. So they have all kinds of cool stuff here. There's this is a great script actually if it works. Let's see. So we're gonna make 4 rows, and we'll make a 4x4 array. Generate. Oh, it worked. So it just reproduced all those in a nice box situation. Let's see if they're instances of each other. They are, which is awesome. And there you go. So, you know, this thing that we've been playing with, you know, by hand, you know, is solved by this little free thing, you know, and 3 minutes of Googling, okay? So you will not find this tool in Maya because this is something that somebody else wrote and they gave out and everything. But obviously, you know, you start collecting these kind of tools up, and you've solved a lot of Maya's, you know, the holes that are in Maya. You know, that you know, some of the things that it doesn't want to do. Oh, look at that! It even, what the heck? It made little dimensions and everything. Cool. So let's see here. Yeah, for some reason it created little dimensions telling you how big the array is and everything. Let's see. The other question is, why did it make cubes instead of the object that I had? Hold on one second. Let's try it again. So select. Oops. Oops. Please bake your current array before attempting to create a new one. So down here is where you'll get feedback from Mel and actually Maya just in general.
I think so.
It's probably this thing, instancer. There we go. Oh no, it wants me to bake that array. There we go. I don't know why they're all boxes. Why would they all be... Select your instance model, select the relevant sliders, click... Well, at any rate... Oh, look at random too. Cool. So if you wanted to scatter them around... Oh, geez. It's really into that baking the array thing. So let's see. I'll just make one. We'll make 20 by 20, we'll say. Ooh. Ooh, and those are all little cubes. So anyway, sorry, I could play with this for a while, but you see my point is that, you know, I went out, Googled, found this thing, and now I solved another problem, and you got this nice little this nice little tool that handles all that stuff, right? Okay. So the next thing, you know, you're going to want to do is make sure that it's available to you at all times, right? Meaning, like, you know, you don't want to have to go load up that script and run it every time, okay? So what you can do is if you open up script, by default, let's see. Hold on one second. By going to get, there we go. Okay, so, well, there's a way to keep these things together in your, there's two ways to do it. Either you can move the file into your profile, but I'm just going to sort of do the cheat way. Since it's already open, since we ran it, I don't know if I mentioned this, but this is the button to run the script up here. See this guy right there? The next one goes line by line if you're in the editor, but this is the one you want to hit. So I open the script. Here it is. We know that it works. So what I'm going to do is save script to shelf, right? So if I do that, I can say, remember, let's see. probably just, yeah, I'll just call it array. Boom. So I got, oh, there's too many R's. Array, sorry. Tooltip, array generator. Great. You can change the button back into button hell. That's not good. That's not great. Nope, array sucks. Jeez. Well, this would be a good opportunity to go over and make your own. You could go to Photoshop and make something, or go search for it, or whatever. You know, so it barely matters, because you know, if you know what it is, then you know, you'll get used to what it looks like, right? So okay, so now I can close down my script editor and everything, and I have this thing available to me just like any other feature in Maya, right? And you wouldn't even know, you know, how to deal, you know, what the deal is or anything like that. It's just click the button and there it is. So once you set these things up, put them in your shelf, it's there. You know, you can just, like I said, you can just mash the button and you get the that thing. So what we talked about is the nuts and bolts of these scripts, and you know, the way that this script is written is obviously by, you know, a real programmer. If you go in here, you'll see, you know, he's doing all kinds of stuff. He or she, sorry. But in the end, this is just a collection of Mel script, you know, Mel things. So if you go in here, you'll see, you know, you'll see things that, you know, that make sense because they're just good old commands in Maya. You know, let's see if I can find one that's a little more recognizable. You know, so here he is changing labels, or they're changing labels. Whatever, who cares? It doesn't matter. The long story short is, you know, this is just a collection of the same pieces of language that we're doing, you know, over here, and, you know, in the really simple stuff, they're just, you know, sort of broadened out, okay? So yeah, so there's a million of these scripts. Keep an eye out for them. Go look for them. They'll save you a whole lot of time. I mean, even a lot of the things that we've learned by hand, there's easier ways to do it by finding scripts. But I don't want, you know, the idea here is that we're trying to teach, like, how to use the base package to get things done, and then it's like you learn the hard way, then you learn how to make life easier for yourself, if that makes any sense, you know. So yeah, so keep an eye out, or not keep an eye out, but keep in mind that these things are all out there and waiting for you. And some of them I'd actually say are almost indispensable, and you'll find them, you know. They're kind of scattered all over the place. You know, like I said, there's high-end 3D, Autodesk, a place called the Area. They have a whole scripts area, so Maya scripts, and you know, you see all this stuff, flexi plane, whatever the heck that is, dynamic chains. You know, they have things that make like this person has a thing that makes stairs, gears, which is already in there, eyeballs for some reason, putting water droplets on something, you know, instead of, you know, like you know, we've talked about, you know, the ways to put things near each other, or even use the live surface and do this stuff. This just does it for you, so you don't need to screw with that, right? So, you know, like I said, we learned the hard way just on purpose, but this stuff is out there, you know. This one, in theory, builds a whole town, which is really cool. So this is all generated on the fly. It's not all detailed out or anything, but it's a start. Like, oops. So yeah, so all this stuff in the background here is generated by this script. So it's like, it essentially grows, you know, buildings, you know, and it's really cool. So pipe maker, you know, create a chain, randomize points. Like if you're looking to, you know, just like they're doing here is random translation, blah, 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 some animation ones, camera rigs. Like I said, you name it, there's stuff out there, you know. And the bulk of them are free, which is great, because you can't really you can't encrypt Mel, so you can't hide Mel behind other stuff. And you could spend weeks looking for these things. So I'm gonna leave it at that, and you know, make them for yourself, or go look for other ones and keep a nice little collection, because they'll save your butt. And then, you know, keep a shelf with them. You know, there's nothing stopping me from just saying, you know, like I could have one just for special scripts, or I could you could break out and have one just for modifying polygons or whatever it is. It's just making your own shelves. Since you make them and put the things, put the icons where you want them, you know them because you made it, right? Whereas like the ones that they make, you can spend plenty of time going, okay, wait, what's this one? Combine. Oh, right. Like you will get to know them, but it's like making them yourself. Sort of like it's almost like if you bought a toolbox and you put your own tools in it versus if you bought a toolbox with a bunch of tools in it and you'd be like, I don't know what I have, right? And you'd rifle through it. Whereas if you bought a toolbox and put the tools in it yourself, you'd know if you got a screwdriver or whatever. So making shelves is a really, just a great way to both put the things that you want in front of you the way you want them, because, you can, hold down middle mouse button and just move them anywhere you like, including to other tabs like we saw, So yeah, that's just a way to sort of grab, get your own tools together and save yourself a lot of time. Okay. Let's see. Okay, we covered most of that stuff.
So if we save all of our scripts that we put on a shelf,
Mm-hmm.
would we be able to save that in like an external hard drive?
Yeah.
And transfer it?
Yep. Let me go find it real quick. So where this stuff goes by default, when you do it the way we're doing it, is in your profile on the machine. Okay. So if you go to C, then users, and then I'm in here somewhere. That's me. Let's see. Just no. Download my documents, possibly Maya, 2008. Oh, scripts. No. 2018 scripts. No. Preferences. Okay, here they are. Script shelves. Yeah, see, so this is the actual shelves are even created with Mel. So if I went in here and I opened it up with a text editor, I think I'm launching another version of or a copy of Maya. You can see it's just Mel, like we were seeing before. So shelf button, so it creates a button, makes a squat little cylinder, blah 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 blah. So if I copy, actually, let's see, I guess a good way to do this would be to so I'm going to copy this to my desktop, and I'm going to actually go in and delete my shelf. So I just threw out the shelf, right? So now it's gone. But if I come back in here and I open that script, open script, go to my desktop where I copied it to, Andy's shelf stuff, boom, run it. It should remake the, where'd it go? Go. But it doesn't. Well, that sucks. Well, I guess the key would be to not move it. That didn't work. Oh, it's deleted, so delete it and put it back. Sorry about that, that's weird. Desktop. Shelf. So shelves, you can edit the, oops, shut up. Shelf editor. Well, the good news is if I restart Maya, if I put the script back in there and restart Maya, it should be there. Let me do that. No, just blow that away. Okay, the point is that if you go in there, this is where it keeps this stuff, and that's why I was saying, like, will it go from machine to machine like this? Your user stuff, this My Documents and all this stuff is saved out on the network, so it's like that's why it keeps. That's why when you sit down, unless the blitzing that you're talking about actually happens, this stuff should be at any machine that you log into and sit down at. I'll double check that.
I think you have to put it in a certain file for you to be able to open it in a different one, because if I drop it into your Dropbox, then I can open it on any computer. But if I dropped it onto my desktop, then it's not on the other ones.
It might just wipe the desktop or my.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It's probably.
Yeah,
Because my profile, my screensaver's been the same.
yeah, okay, yeah. It's only blowing away main files, and I'll double check this. This stuff should stick. So, anyways, what I was trying to get at is that this is where it keeps that kind of stuff in, under your username in documents. So if you wanted to take all this stuff home and install it, if you drop this in the same area, this would give you the same stuff. It would give you the same shelves or whatever the heck you've got going on here, right? So, like this, the custom script is there, and I also made changes to the polygons one by putting this guy in there, right? So it that's all in there, and you can take that stuff with you. So Maya 2018. Actually, if you take all this stuff, it's a good idea. Yeah, like you've changed the hotkeys. I haven't changed any. If I had special icons, they'd be in there. But so this is that location. So, like I said, it would be your name, documents, Maya 2018, and preferences. All this stuff is what sort of describes how you set up Maya to do that stuff, right? So, if I went in here and I like scripts, if I wanted to get it, if I literally just wanted to dump in the script that we just got, the array one versus letting it go live array. So let me find it again. Documents, Maya 2018, and scripts. That would make sure that goes with that, or goes with you. Okay. So it's easier to get at. If I go here, Maya 2018, oops, up, prefs, scripts, live array mail, boom. Okay. So now I have two of them open because there's one on the desktop and there's one in the scripts folder, but that's a way to keep them all together. Let's see here. Yeah, that's a 2010. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. So that's Mel, and that's, like I said, that's what's behind there. Maya. There's a lot of ways to speak to Maya, and the lowest level is literally just telling it, what to do, at this base level, right? By typing in commands, So all that the interface is doing, honestly, is giving those commands to the engine that's back there in Maya, right? So you can do the same thing. There's nothing stopping you from doing that, and that's the beauty. That's been like the really great thing about Maya over the years, is how easy that stuff is to do, and how many, how that's helped a lot of people make so many good tools that are out there. Whereas like 3D Studio Max, writing things for 3D Studio Max is a huge pain in the butt, right? So there's less stuff, right? It may have more features built in, but it has less expansion, because you need to be a really good programmer to get that stuff, or you really need to know what you're doing. Whereas writing a Mel script is shockingly easy, especially if you just give it a just sort of keep watching what it's doing, and collecting up those commands and everything. Okay. So that's that's pretty much that. Anybody have any questions on that? Is that what part? Is any fogginess on this? I know it's complicated and it seems weird, but like I said, the ability to turn this on and see what Maya is doing in the background is it's like the best way to get anything done. I made a cube by hitting a button. There it is, right? Okay. And the cool thing is you can actually inspect these things. If I, just because these shelves are made by whoever, the writer of the software, it doesn't mean that I can't open up what they're doing and see what they're doing, right? Like there's the commands. The commands are in here. All that, all that stuff is, to make those changes. It's all in there, and you could change it too. There's nothing, stopping you from, relabeling stuff. Now it says cube on top of cube. All that. All those commands are editable to you. There's There's what it's, that's how it creates a polygon cube. I copy that. Oops. I paste that down there. There's my cube, right? That's all it's doing. If I say edit, this is the command that it's issuing to do that. And then, you know, all that the button is all, this is all the stuff that just tells you about the you know, how to display it, right? You know, I could change the, you know, if I wanted to make a different cube, and you can actually get skins and stuff like that if you're into skinning, you know, like making changes. People have icon sets and you can change them up, and you know, all that time wasting shit. You know, if you really want to get in there, there's nothing, you could have all purple icons if that's your bag or whatever it might be, right? So the point is that, like, you know, when you see Maya's guts, it's cool to be able to change it to the way you want to change it. Okay. All right. So we spent the first, like, whatever, I think this is our 10th class. So, like, we've spent a lot of time talking about making models, you know, without really talking about the next step is you know, where they go and how to make images with them and why you want to make images with them, which is what we're going to be talking about now. You know, there's two routes for the assets that we're creating. I mean, right now there's largely two assets. There's real-time rendering, and then there's image rendering. Okay, rendering. You know, and real-time rendering, and I think we've talked a little bit about this, is anything that's rendered literally on the fly. That's video games, VR, things on your phone. These are all things that are changed. You know, that are the images that are presented to you are made as you need them, right? Like what you're looking at here in the viewport, this is a real-time renderer, right? As simple as what we're looking at here, you know, it's showing you images in real time, right? Okay, and a few things that it can do is, you know, I can turn on shadows. Oops. I can turn on the lights, which we talked about, where we don't have any lights, but so I'll create a light. Ambient. Oop, no, not ambient light. Make a point light, which is like a light bulb. I'll move that guy around. Okay, so, you know, I have a little shadow here because I've turned this option on. Okay, so, you know, what you're looking at here in the viewport is the simplest form of real-time rendering, meaning I make a change, I see it. I don't wait for an image to come back, you know, and it can do this because all we're looking at is a box, a plane, and one light, right? You know, so obviously it's really not choking any of these machines to show you a box, a plane, and one light. Okay, so, but you know, when you look at games and things like that on a PS4 or anything like that, obviously what you're saying is still very realistic, but it's rendered in real time. Everything that you need to show a good image is done like at 60 frames a second or whatever frame rate you can get out of the machine, right? Which is an amazing thing because, you know, you're talking about all kind, you know, you're talking about objects that reflect each other. You're talking about shadows that are computed as you go, you know, all this amazing stuff. And the line between real-time rendering and image rendering is like is closing as we go. This, you know, the same way that you remember, like, you know, no one would confuse a game, you know, from an original Xbox with something you'd see in a movie, right? You know, the objects were chunky and the shadows didn't work quite right, and people, you know, floated on stuff, and you know what I mean? Like it just wasn't there. Whereas now, you know, you see things that have mist and they have fog and they have all these amazing things because, like I said, the power between the real-time machines, your Xbox, the card that you have in here, and the computed images is closing because, like I said, the machines are getting so much faster that it's still not there, but it gets closer every day. So anyway, so what I'm getting at is what we're going to be talking about is making images that you would then, you know, you would put together either, you know, on a web page or whatever, or into a QuickTime movie, into a QuickTime movie that's then put on a TV, put in a phone, whatever it may be, whatever the final output is. We're talking about it making a series of frames, not a real time object. Okay, and like I said, the beauty is that those lines are getting blurred all the time. Okay. So, but like I said, what we're going to learn about here is actual rendering, so that the program, how these guys are working on, they make a short film and stuff like that. It's obviously it's a rendered thing that's cut together, just like a movie or whatever, or anything else, right? So, that's, like I said, largely what we're talking about. But the beauty is that most of these things sort of overlap each other. Okay, so. Let's see here. So Maya has renderers work in kind of an interesting way in that they're very separate from the software, but they're sort of available all over the place. Meaning your renderer is largely a plugin, essentially, an extension of the software. So each package has different, like in 3D Studio Max, you'd model this way and that way, or you do use different methods, but you could use, in the end, you could still use the same renderer. The renderer is like the thing that the thing that things are going to pass through to get your image, right? And they get better and better all the time, and it depends on sort of which one you like, and then it's a constant war. Like the Maya doesn't change a whole lot in the background. Neither does 3D Studio Max or any of these packages, but the render is constantly, that's where the changes are being made all the time, right? So Maya has several built in, which is great. Most packages have their own renderer that's built in. Maya has its own renderer that's okay. But it also contains one called Arnold. I don't know if you guys have heard about this or talked about this or anything, but it's a really great renderer. Autodesk bought them about 2 or 3 years ago or something, and now it's built into Maya for free. So it's what we can use. So just a quick overview is that Pixar makes RenderMan, which has been a really, really big one for a long time, but sort of has fallen behind because it's really, really expensive and people don't use it so much. But you can actually get a RenderMan like a free license to play with if you just want to bat it around. It's a great renderer, obviously. It's rendered all of Pixar stuff. Pixar makes it in-house, and they also sell it as a product. As far as I know, we don't have that here. No, there's not a lot of reason for it, honestly. Like I said, it's kind of fallen behind a little bit. Okay, and like I said, there's also a built-in one. Maya's a software renderer, they call it. Okay, and then another really popular one is called V-Ray, which I do think they do have here, which is a really nice one. I just saw it. Chaos group, maybe not. Anyways, but the big one we're going to be playing with is called Solid Angles Arnold. Okay, it makes amazing stuff. It's an amazing renderer. This is the kind of stuff that it does. I mean, this is. So this is a reference, and this is a render. It has it handles fur. It handles things like skin.
Does that mean his beard was fake?
Huh?
Does that mean his beard was fake?
This beard is fake. This is right.
You're so upset about that.
Yeah. So
Yeah, my life is a lie.
Yeah. So all the stuff. I mean, like I said, it's a really amazing render, and if you go in here. It's just great. I mean, so this is the exact same tool. There's nothing different between what you see here and the tool that we'll be using, which is really great. It's world class. Sorry, go ahead.
Will you be putting this website on Canvas?
Sure, I can, sure, yeah, no problem, yeah. If you just click through it, you'll just be like, so it actually is really stands out. It does amazing fur. It does amazing, everything. I love it. It really got popular in Gravity, the movie Gravity, if you saw that. In fact, they got some great shots here somewhere. Basically everything in space, that's from The Martian, was rendered with Arnold. And it's about 20 years old. It's another old thing, or an old piece of software, but it's awesome. So this is what we'll be playing with. It's built into every copy of a legit copy, I should say, of Maya 2018. Yeah, it's just great. If you go through this stuff, it's sort of like it's rendered everything cool in the last 5 years or something, Oh yeah, so all this stuff, this is, barring her face, is rendered, It's just great. So I could go on and on about it, but this is what we're going to be using. So there's no difference between what you're using here and what they're using there, which is mind-blowing, So it's awesome. So it has its own tab that you'll see here, right?
Seems so simple.
Yeah. It is in a lot of ways. Arnold is it is simple. It's kind of what it's called Arnold. They named it after Arnold Schwarzenegger because they call it a brute force renderer, because a lot of the work that it does in figuring out images is through brute force, meaning a lot of the light bouncing and all this other stuff is just it's just brute force, which means there's a lot of computation to do, and it's like, tough. That it doesn't take a lot of shortcuts and a lot of tricks. It just does what physically should happen. Okay, so it's great. So it's, like I said, it's really cool. It is developed by these guys for like 10 years on their own, and then for like 5 years it was only used at Sony Pictures ImageWorks, and then now it's a commercial product, and then Autodesk bought them, and now it's like I said, it's rolled into all this stuff. So okay, I'll stop harping about that, but that's what we'll be using. So it's really cool to get access to such a great tool, because if we were using the software renderer, you'd probably be fairly disappointed, because it's not great. The software renderers that are in most programs like 3D Studio Max, Maya, and things like that are they're not developed as much because they assume that you're going to be using another outside renderer. So if you're using the basic renderer, you're kind of cutting your nose off. What's up, Violet?
Can you show me the website that you were looking at?
Sure. Okay. The place to go it's called SolidAngle.com. They're the makers of it, and it's all their stuff on there. So, and I'm just blitzing through the gallery here. It's great. It's so cool. I love it. Okay, now, so that's all well and good, but how do we use it? Okay, so first things first is the renderers are assigned in a dialog called render settings here. Okay, so if you go to Windows, rendering editors. So we've been in here a little bit before. We got our outliner there. That's right here actually. So, but if I wanted another outliner, it's right there. So Maya has all these editors for all kinds of stuff. We're not going to get into a lot of these because they get really deep really fast, but we're going to be using a few of them. The first one is just the render settings. Okay, so if I click that button, what I'll get is my render settings window, and this allows you to assign your renderer. Essentially, it's telling Maya, here's how I want you to make images. Here's I want you to what engine should we go through to translate things to images, right? Mine is set up for Arnold by default. For some reason, I don't know if yours is. If you go in there, check it out. But you just switch it right here, and you'll get all the options for Arnold. We're not going to play with those right now, but that's the if you don't have that set, that's how you reset it. So we can sort of not worry about that right now for the settings, meaning. and you can just sort of turn that off, okay? Or make the change and then switch it, okay? So the first thing that we're going to go through, so if we have our objects, and like I said, all along we've been looking through the the hardware renderer, which gives us these gray shaded simplified objects or whatever, right? And we talked last week a little bit about changing the light, popping lights in your scene so that you can get a better look at stuff. And we're going to basically do the same thing. So if I go to my Arnold tab, the first set of icons are for creating lights, okay? Create area light, create a mesh light, create a photometric light, create a sky dome light, create a light portal, and a physical sky, okay? So depending on which renderer you're using, you'll have different options, but these are really fairly basic, or the basic ones, right? So let's see here. If I hit create area light, I'll get this little guy right here, okay? And it's just a basic shape. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch my lights. Right now we're seeing that default lighting setup. If I hit this button, I'll use all lights. And if I hit shadows, I'll get some very basically made shadows. Now, this isn't what you're going to get out of the renderer, but it just sort of helps you to know where your shadows are falling and stuff like that, right? So I can move it around, and I'll get different things. I'll get different. I'll see the changes, in real time, because this is a real-time renderer, okay? And essentially, the light is now made, or one light is made for you to start shaping it into whatever you need light sources to be, okay? So meaning, like, if we were gonna sort of mimic the light that we have in the classroom here, if you look up, obviously we have an array of 4x4 fluorescent lights, right? So if I go in here and if I measured so I'm gonna move this guy, okay, and it's square, okay, there it is. I'm gonna say it's a little big, maybe knock it down, okay, and then I can start copying or whatever I wanted to do, okay. So I'm gonna go through some of the options here real quick though. So I'm gonna go back to 1. So some of the options that you have, light sources, come in, every shape and size, obviously, from little light bulbs or little flashlights to these big lights in the ceiling to the sun to lights in a stadium or whatever, right? So what you're trying to do is mimic both the size, the shape, and the color, temperature, and the intensity, okay? And all the things that you sort of see right here, okay? So the first thing that you can do is you can choose the shape that you'd like it to be in. So by default, it's going to put out just a square. So this is, you can see this is a little light emitting square, okay? It can be a cylinder, like so, which probably, nope. So all the light is just emitting from the center outwards from here. You can see, like, if I point it down this way, I don't get light. So it's just kind of like a ring of light. It's kind of an odd choice, but if I put it around right where the object is. Okay. So this is interesting. What's happening here is actually Maya's hardware renderer is having a hard time showing what this would actually do. So in theory, it's kicking light out from all directions this way, but not inside. So this is where you can't necessarily completely trust what you see in the viewport until you render out an image. Okay, and then you have a disc light, which is like a looks like kind of like a like what you would get out of a spotlight, or like a in the ceiling if you had like those track lights or whatever, or no, like a light, a recessed lighting situation like this, okay? Okay, so the next situation, or the next thing to think about here is all light has what they call a temperature, okay? And what I mean by that is, and I don't know if you've ever seen this, but it's like, if you go to the store or whatever, and that like if you go to buy like those new, like an LED light bulb, those new LED light bulbs, they'll tell you what temperature the light is, right? Is it a cool light or is it a warm light, right? So light coming out of like an incandescent bulb that we use for years and years, that just a screw-in good old light bulb actually gives off an orange kind of hue. That's why if you like walk down, how if you're walking down the street and it's like dusk where it's kind of getting dark where people are turning on their lights, right? And you look outside and you look in people's houses and it looks orange, right? It's because the light in the sky is close to white, or it's kind of bluish coming off of the sky, right? So your eyes adjust to, your eyes interpret white the way that your eyes want to interpret white for the certain scenario, right? So when you're outside in a blue sky day, if I hold up a white sheet of paper, you'd say it's blue, right? Or no, I'm sorry, you'd say it's white. But in reality, it's like a blue-white because the light that's coming off of the sky is blue, right? But your eyes, like I said, it adjusts. It's like the way you take a picture with your camera. It knows what white means, but if it like gets screwed up and all of a sudden your picture is like really blue, that's because the camera thinks that it should be seeing white as like the light coming in from a window, right? But you have light that's inside, and these things compete with each other, right? So, even though like right here you see, the color when I made this light is white, right? It says it's white, okay? And it's going to kick off white, but you need to be aware of the temperatures of lights to get things sort of lit properly, right? Like these lights on here give off a greenish hue, okay? But, like I said, your eyes are, if you hold up a piece of paper, you see white, but if you really, really looked at it, it's like, these are not bad, so they're like an orangey green, but like a bad old fluorescent lights like in an office building, like same thing, if you're walking along and you look into an office building that doesn't have good lighting, it looks green, and that's what that is. So the point is it's like it's easy to make a white light and go, I'm done, and that's great, right? But like if I was going to try and mimic what we have in here, I would actually put it somewhere in like this range with just a slight tint to it like that, okay? Now this could be color corrected after the fact or whatever to make it appear more white, but it's just, you want to start out mimicking the light the way that it was seen, like if you, like another good example is like, you ever seen headlights coming from a car that look like bright blue, they look blue, like those are bright LED lights that do give off a bluish tint, they are slightly blue. They're bright, but they're slightly blue. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to make a car like that and you were going to try and mimic the headlights the right way, you would put that blue in there, so that this is where you adjust that, and then so it's just something to look out for, because even though you may think you want white light, you often don't want perfectly white light. Like I said, an old lamp or lights that are adjusted to be warm, you would put a little bit of orange in them, just the slightest amount. So like if I zoom in here, this doesn't look really orange, but it's actually, like I said, giving off a little bit of an orange tint to it, okay? Okay. The next situation, or the next option is intensity, which is just, intensity, how bright is the thing? And you would crank that up here. So if I was, trying to mimic. In this instance, I'm actually just sort of faking it, because there is ways to put in the real numbers, like you know how lights are. You get a light bulb and it says 60 watt or 100 watt or 20 watt or something like that. There are ways to sort of translate down so that you're that's what they call a photometric light. They have separate shapes and everything, but for our purposes, we're not going to worry too much about that right now. So just crank it up, and oh, actually, here we go. That's right. Shit. So Maya actually does, Arnold lights do have a color temperature. So if I go over and I Google, let's see, color temp incandescent bulb. Okay. So there you go. So three primary types of color temperature for light bulbs are soft white, 27 to 3000 K, bright white, cool white, 3500 to 4100, and daylight, 5000 to 6500. Okay, so that's, you actually see these on those when you go to buy a light bulb, right? So you can pump those numbers into these guys if you don't want to color them by hand. I like to color them by hand because then you can sort of adjust it, but sometimes people like to just use the exact number, right? So if I said I wanted a white, or a warm light bulb here, you just go 2700 Kelvin. Oops. And now you see you get sort of a very warm light, right? Which doesn't show up in the. Let me see if it shows up in the render. Yes, it shows up. So it doesn't show up in the in the viewport, but it shows up when you actually make an image. Okay, so this is where, like, Maya and the Arnold renderer that's a plug-in break, right? So even though it's not showing you what it actually is, it will show up in the renderer. Okay. Okay. We're not going to mess with that. We're not going to mess with that. We're not going to mess with that yet. So we'll come back to all these things because I want to show you the other light types real quick. So, so if I wanted to sort of green that up, so I'm going to go more towards. So this is more of a daylight view, but I'm going to go in the blue-green in here, right? So I can just copy these all over. One thing that's a huge bummer is that Maya does not like duplicated and instanced lights. There's ways to do it, but it really takes some. You can't just run the duplicate special command and get a nice array of lights. It does not like that. You sort of have to sew them together. So okay, so now I have a very basic, setup like we have in here, where the lights are coming from above and illuminating straight down. Let me just make a quick room here. Okay. So once again, it's just a very basic like mock-up of the setup that we have right here in the room. None of this is measured or anything like that, but this is how you would do such a situation, right? So these lights, you basically can basically shape them into anything you sort of want to. You can make them a little tiny but very intense, like like the little red dot that's above the door there, or you could make the exit sign that gives off some light, that kind of thing. So you can just treat them like normal geometry. Okay, you can scale them, you can whatever you need to do with them. Okay. Now the best thing to do though is to take them and grab them all. I'm gonna put them on a layer just so I can hide them. Damn it. There it is. So I'm going to make a new layer. So they get in your way really, really quickly and really, really easily. Light save. Add selected. So they're there. They're not there. Oops, they're there. Okay, here we go. Okay. So yeah, so we have different shapes: quads, cylinders, discs. Cylinders and quads being the most useful ones, and cylinder, I'm not exactly sure why you want that. Okay. The next thing you can do with Arnold light-wise, and some renderers don't support this, is you can make an object light emitting, right? So if you had an object that didn't fit into these situations of like a flat light like this, or a disc or whatever it might be, you can actually make pretty much any object you like light emitting, which is really great. And it has all the same stuff. It has intensity and exposure, and you can put a color temperature on it. Okay. So you select the object, you hit mesh light, and boom, it turns the object that you had into a light emitting object. So if you actually wanted to render, if you wanted to model a little a light bulb so that it glowed perfectly, and you could sort of see it in the scene, you could make the light bulb, grab the glass part, and make it a mesh light, and boom, there you go. You get your mesh light, or you get that light bulb that is a light emitter, just like these guys. Okay. Sometimes doing that though is could be inefficient, so it's something you don't want to do a ton of, because the lights that you create this way are made to render quickly and do their thing really quickly. So it's not the most efficient thing to do, but sometimes you just need it. It doesn't matter. You need that, and that's what you got to do. Okay. Photometric light. We're not going to get into too much. Photometric lights are these special lights that. Boy, how do you even explain this? Let's see. So, people who are into, people who specialize in architectural rendering, like now you see these concepts where they say this is what this place is going to look like when we're done making it, right? Though that's architectural rendering, right? And since they're only making one image, they really look to make it as accurate as possible. So what people have done is they've gone in and they do special measurements with both light fixtures and bulbs and all this stuff, and they make what they call photometric files, right? And it's basically how light is given off from the object. So if you know how you have like a sconce on the wall, those little things like a half a globe, right? Light comes out of the top a lot because there's no glass there, and it comes out the sides a little more, and it doesn't come out. So anyways, they make these files, and you can plug that file into here, and you'll get a very, very realistic light spread coming out of that fixture, right? So it's a very specific thing. I don't, you rarely use those, but it's nice that they're there, if that's your bag, if architectural stuff is your bag, okay? And that's just how it works, okay? So the other things that they have in here are a sky dome light, and what that creates is just pretty much what it says there, a big. It'd take a second to create it. Creates a big, almost infinite dome that gives off light, like the sky essentially. And you can choose how you want that to. If I want a nice blue sky, I can choose it like so. If I come down here, you'll see it should leak light inside there like crazy, and almost smush out my whole. So see all this blue inside there, and all that stuff. So, sky domes are generally something that you put a map on, so that it's not just light coming from all angles. That gets really boring. So we'll get into that, but that's the basic idea: is that you've got this big sphere that that's simulating like the sky. Okay. Light portal, we're not really going to talk about right now. That's just another architectural modeling thing that allows you to make a window, like you have a bright outside, and you don't want to compute the whole thing. You can make a light portal, it's called, and it would basically just be the windows and leak light in, and we're not going to, like I said, we're not going to get too much into that unless you're really interested in architectural rendering. We had talked about it after class or something like that, but And then this one is kind of cool in that it's another one that it creates a physical sky. This is a physical sky is the same kind of situation as the sky dome that we created before, except that it makes its own. What it does is it uses just sort of some algorithms to make a fake sky. I guess is the best way to put it is it makes a fake sky, including like a blue what's called apex, meaning above you, whereas like at the horizon it gets more where the atmosphere gets thicker. You can actually, if you look here, it's giving me a little preview. You see that? So like I have a very blue top, and then I have a horizon that goes down to like a foggy situation. Okay, and I should be able to see it if I render it. So yeah, you can see it there, right? So if I pan up, there we go. So you can see it. So if I keep looking straight up. Yeah. Okay. So that gives you that. Okay. So you probably see me mashing this button a bunch of times. So this is render the current frame. This kicks off a render using Arnold, like we just you saw how I set it up there. If yours isn't set up, just change it in rendering editors. Okay. We'll get into the other the other details of all this stuff at some other time. One of the beauties about Arnold is it's pretty much ready to go, out of the box by just hitting this and you'll get an image. So you can take your, you can keep adding stuff to the scene, and mashing the button, and it'll take the current view that you're looking through and render it out depending on whatever the heck you got going on, and give you a really pretty nice image, without messing with it. Okay, there's tons of things we can do here to make it go faster or give us higher quality, which we'll get into later. But like if you want to play with this and you want to play with lights, you just want to mess with this one right now to actually see the image, right? So I can go in here and I can start deleting these guys and seeing what it does, or coming over here and getting rid of, oh crap, I deleted my room. I can get rid of my sky dome. Let's see. I'll just hide that. And I can hit it again and see what happened. Definitely hasn't gotten any more interesting, but you see what's going on. If you hit escape, it'll stop the renderer. So I'm just going to clean this out a little bit. A lot of lights just obviously gives you a kind of a smushy image. So I'm going to back off a little bit. And this guy. There we go. So you see here how in the viewport, the hardware render, this is how it's showing you what the shadows are going to look like, but in reality, when the shadows are computed to give you nice soft edges and all that stuff, they're obviously quite a bit different than what you see in the viewport, right? So it's just trying to show you this is basically what you're going to get, right? But when it goes to do it, you get something so much different. Okay. I think that's enough. One other thing I want to show you real quick was, when it goes to render, it's not going to render the entire viewport here, because the viewport can be, the resolution it's set up for, that we'll talk about another time. It's got a set resolution. It's not just going to render this whole thing. If you turn on the resolution gate here, that's what this one's called, you'll see what it's actually going. So if you're trying to sort of aim this thing, like if I want to for sure see the whole thing, I could do that. And now if I hit render, I get the whole thing. So you see over here, this is that mesh object that's nice and warm. Over here, this is the light it casts on the inside. And And you can do whatever you like with these. I can scale them for a big light source and sort of light the whole thing if I wanted to see it. So there's a whole lot going on here that we'll talk about another time, but you know, just to be able to sort of kick around lights, that's the easiest, this is sort of the easiest way to do it. It's just sort of set them up and kick it around like so. You'll see the difference I get if I get out of, if I turn off color temperature, so I can go like so, and so this is what it thinks it's going to look like, and then this is what I actually get. So it's not as orange as I would like. Oh. Uh-oh. Oh, it's weird I can move. Oh, I still have color temperature on. There we go. So this overrides the color that you put in here, the color temperature. So let's try it again. So I get a big orange thing, whereas, you know, I can shrink it down like so, but turn the exposure, I could put in my own, or no, I'm not, put it to 50. So I have something that's small, but really, really bright. Okay. I'm not going to get into you know, like I said, we'll talk more about these things at other times. So there's a really bright, oh, damn it, I did it again. Shit. I keep deleting the room. So it's really cool. I mean, what you're seeing here is, you know, you're seeing, you know, shadows being computed that fall off properly and get fuzzy. Light is actually being bounced off of the objects onto other objects to illuminate them. Proper shadows are getting, you know, computed over here for some reason. Light is getting bounced off of here and back here. This is all like a minor miracle, believe it or not. Like, you know, 10 years ago, like, you know, just getting these things done. 20 years ago, these things, you'd have to fake all of this stuff, meaning like light coming off of this object and bouncing on this wall. You'd have to put another light over here and you know, like I said, like fake it so that it looked like it was, you know, bouncing off and everything. So, you know, like I said, a lot of this stuff is a minor miracle. So it's really cool just to be able to, you know, mush the button and get something that looks pretty good. Okay. So I'm going to leave it at that. We've been talking a long time, but you know, I would definitely call up some of your models you've made for other projects and start throwing some lights in there. We're going to get the surfaces. You'll notice that everything's still gray, obviously, and everything. That's the next step, and we'll be going there. But for now, just play with these things, play with the intensities, just kick it around. Yeah, that's what I would do. If you have any questions, please ask them. And yeah, that's it. And don't forget it. The button, everybody should have that button right here. The options are actually also you can get at them right two icons over, gives you the same thing as going into here. And to change your renderer, you can change to the Arnold renderer there. You see where it says Maya software and all that stuff? That's what I was talking about the built-in renderer that's largely abandoned, I'd say, really. I'm not sure they even mess with it anymore. So yeah, so thanks for listening, and that's it. And stop.